Welcome, Kéa.
Welcome, I'm very happy to be with you today to talk about feedback, which maybe strangely enough is one of my favorite topics. I feel very sorry for feedback that often has kind of a bad reputation. And I think that feedback, if it was a person, it would be maybe like these actors who never got really the leading roles they deserve and get always stuck in the characters they might had once as a threatful person. And I do believe that feedback can be like these amazing actors or actresses that are so good that they make everyone else play at their best. You've seen that, I guess, right? And I think we all deserve to be in that kind of environment where people play at their best and lift everyone else around. We deserve it, and I think we also need it lately, these days, when there is so much challenge or high-pace change, pressure, uncertainty. I'm not breaking any news here. But the thing is that when it's so stressful outside, unfortunately, it often wakes up some pattern we might have where we go into reactive mode, stressful mode, and there we are more focused on protecting ourselves and less busy at trying to find solution with other people. And that's what we need together, right? To continue shaping great story is to work together and tap into creativity and collective intelligence. And just to remind what Darwin said, maybe you've read his Species of Origin, and then he say it's not the species that are the strongest or the smartest that will survive. They are the species that are most adaptive to change. So we need to create this environment where we can really transform challenge into opportunities. It seems cheesy, but that's true and so uplifting when it happens. So before I'm sharing with you how it looks like and what is the findings from people who spend years to crack the code of what makes people performing at their best, I would like you to recall some of your own experience and how it feels to be in that kind of environment where people are uplifting each others. So if you can recall a time when you were part of a team like this, right? You had great ambition and you met some challenges and you managed to find a way to overcome that. And you might have had a leader in this team that was very good to create that environment. Did that happen to you before? I hope so. Cool. So then I would like you to reflect what has helped that team to be at their best individually and collectively. And you will be invited to turn to your neighbor, and maybe you can say your name if you don't know who's sitting next to you, and share one main insight. But just before you do that, unfortunately, you won't be able to talk for 10 minutes because I have to manage the time here. So I will have to interrupt you. And then I will raise my left hand so everyone can stop to talk then. It's fine? Then, and just make sure if you see that you're sitting with one person and this person is left, include and you're allowed to be three. Okay? Enjoy, turn to your neighbor. Then I will share some insights from people who, as I say, spend years of studying, what makes team to be at their best. And the first element that has been found is trust and psychological safety. And you might know the name of Amy Edmondson. She's like the most influential organizational psychologist. And for 40 years, she's been studying that. And what she found was really the foundation is psychological safety. And what it is, it's a belief. It's a shared belief by a team that it's safe to speak up, to ask questions, to admit mistake without the fear of being punished or humiliated or rejected. And it's not because it's like koselig, as they say in Norwegian, or like just to be nice, but that's really the condition to help teams to speak out, to innovate, and to anticipate problems. And if you're curious on that topic, you can also read the outcome from the project Aristotle that they've done at Google, and they found that same element. Or also in that very interesting book, do you see it, from Patrick Lencioni, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team? And the first one is trust or mistrust. Because if people trust each other, they dare to speak out, and then they get more ownership to project and more accountable, and then they deliver greater results. And the reason why it's so important is that, I guess, none of us wake up in the morning looking forward to go to work and look stupid or ignorant or negative. Do you? No, me neither. But the thing is that if you go into an environment where you're actually afraid to raise your hands, to ask questions, to challenge status quo, you might hold some very important information. And I guess you've heard stories of, shooting of films where there is overrun of a budget. And maybe a young line producer have seen some sign but didn't dare to talk about it. So that will prevent that kind of mistake. And it's true in business, in creative fields, but also in sport. And we are lucky at Talent Norge to collaborate with Olympiatoppen, which is a center that trains top athletes to participate, but most of it to win gold medals. And we were attending some days ago a training together with Tore Ergesson, and that's what he shared. The first element is a team that trusts each other. There is no team without trust. So that is one of the first elements. The second one, which is key, is the mindset. The set of belief we have and the growth mindset. Have you heard about this expression before? Maybe? It rings a bell. It has been coined by Carol Dweck, also who spent 40 years, again, of her life studying what is the mindset that helps people to learn better, learn faster, perform better. Quite a good combo, no? And this is growth mindset. And what it is believing that our talent, aptitude, ability can always develop. That's what she's writing, That means it can be developed through effort, strategy, dedication, and then you feel more ownership because you can do things that can help it to grow. And then when you meet challenge, it's mostly exciting because it's an opportunity to develop. While the fixed mindset believe that they're born like this. They are very smart. They have this talent. And then they are more focusing about not trying to disappoint others and about their status. And imagine if you have a team with a lot of people with a fixed mindset. How will it feel? Or with a lot of people with growth mindset. And actually we can see here, it's very interesting, they made some brain scan of people. And if you have a fixed mindset, what happened, they gave in that study a task, and that was on purpose difficult, and then it was at one point some challenge to solve. A fixed mindset gets more slow in his or her head. While when you have a growth mindset, since you're here to learn and develop, every challenge is like a gift, an opportunity to learn more. And that's why the red you see is not fever, it's the speed of neuronal connection. Isn't it cool? And because what happened in terms of inner communication here, suddenly you feel, I'm not good enough to solve this. Have you said that before? Have you heard that before? I'm not good enough. And then you fix yourself in that situation. While the other one, what is she or he thinking? Haven't done it or solved this yet. This power of yet, just on the journey. So that is also something that is key to create an environment where people will perform better and solve problems. Another, just an example very quickly, maybe you've heard about Satya Nadella. I mean, he's been the CEO of Microsoft since 2014. And you can see the change he has brought to the company. He has actually implemented that growth mindset to the whole organization. And say, because at that time, Microsoft was seen as people who knows everything about everything. That was, what you should be proud of. And he managed to shift that to have people who are obsessed about learning things. And the reason why I wanted to share this also with you is because he said it here very well. It's about if you help individual to have a growth mindset and a team, it will impact the growth of the company itself and of the business. A third element, it's the strengths-based approach. Knowing what are your strengths as, what gives you energy, how you can develop them. I guess you've heard about the Gallup. It's an American organization, analytic firm. And they found out that, teams who focus on strengths every day are 12.5 more productive and 6 times more engaged. Isn't it cool? And then, of course, they are easier. It's easier for them to solve a challenge. And you can see it here as well, that then if you have an issue, but if you keep focus on the strengths you have, you will improve faster and better. And that's something very important, also linked to the growth mindset. That means you see your strengths, not like, okay, I've done that, that, and that. I have that set of skills, and I can, sleep on it. But more about, okay, have indeed collected all these skills through my experience, work and life, but now how can I use it for which impact? And being aware that you can keep developing. And if there is an area where you're not maybe on the top, you can only use what you have already. So being more aware of how you can use the strengths and skills that you have to develop area where you don't have yet the most performing behaviors. And the last but not least is purpose, the why, connecting to the bigger picture. I don't know if you heard this Rousseau, Descartes, and Wrześniewski on the meaning of work is a collection of all the studies they made. And they found out that employees who perceive a clear connection between their work and the meaningful purpose, they are more motivated and engaged and will work better. But even more important is create an anchor against the stress. And on brain scan, you can see that when people face a stressful situation, if they connect to the purpose while they are in it, it calms down the stress level in the brain. It's quite cool. And I think, I don't know where you come from. I'm French, but wherever you come from, I guess you grew up with stories, right? Fairy tale. And what are common in all fairy tale? There is a hero who has a purpose and meets some challenge on the way, right? And each challenge is an opportunity to reaffirm even more where he or she wants to go. And also an opportunity to discover through the resistance what kind of strengths and skill he or she has, right? So I just wanted to share a very short extract, if it works, of a film. It's a series, The Bear. Have you seen it? Yeah. So it's an episode with Richie, the cousin of the main character, and be extra aware of the question he's asking and the answer at the end.
It's crazy. How do you do this all day?
I need you to stand in that corner and get the fuck out of my way for 1 minute. 5, distillation, eyes on 4. 24, walking in 5. 2, tasting moves on deck, get them out fast, please, thank you. 12, walking out. Let's pick it up, every second counts. 3, going to 21. Pick up 2 hamachi, please. 8, walking in 5. Triple check 5, please, white chocolate allergy. Every night you make somebody's day.
Huh?
You asked me how I can do this, and that's how I can do this.
Basically, the question is, she was overwhelmed, or she seems overwhelmed, but how do you manage to, make sense out of all this information? The purpose, because every day is making someone's night, right? Or every night is making someone's day. Okay, so that was to give us like a common background and understand, what creative leadership is and actually what are important to have in place as a belief here and as a focus. And I think it's very important because for a long time it was this myth that, when something is important, you have to be stressed. Actually, no, that's the opposite. You need, when something is important and is at stake, you need to be on, but not to be stressed and to tap into the creative self-leadership and leadership of people. And that's the way we manage to turn, stress to strength, and also then to be quite excited when there is an upset that comes, because you can get an opportunity to transform it in a new setup. And ask yourself, okay, what would be meaningful to create actually now? So, what is the role that feedback play in creative leadership? Any key role? And why? First, because we've been talking about, agility and adapting on the way. So you need to find a way to check in. But most important is because you, me, all of us, we are doing feedback all the time, but often without being aware of it. You're doing something and you talk in your head about it, I guess. We have 70,000 thoughts a day, almost, and often we're giving feedback to ourselves. So I think we should see more feedback as this ongoing conversation we have within our head and with others. It's conversation, it's dialogue. But are we always having the best feedback, way to talk to yourself and to others? Do you think? Or maybe we could improve. Is there room for improvement? I think so. I wonder how you talk to yourself every day. Are you always, and I'm included in this question, giving yourself feedback that truly helps you reflect, learn, perform at your best, grow, think creatively, and solve problems? Actually, we could. And what is the reason why it's important is that we don't learn from experience, because often we repeat the same mistake, right? We learn from reflecting on it. So we need to stop having automatic pilot conversation with ourselves and others, and really reflecting and driving this conversation in a way that can really help us. So why are we doing it? We know it's not always optimal, and we're still doing it. Why? Because of these lovely things here, which is our brain, your brain, my brain, right? Which has a lot of creative power, but also another part of it, which tend to put us in this reactive, stressful mode. And it's important to be aware of it when especially a lot of stress and pressure outside that could really drain us. And to understand how to manage this part of the brain. And then to include that when we give feedback to ourselves and others. So amygdala, have you heard about her? She's lovely. But the thing is that this part of her brain, I don't know if you're aware of it, but when you were a baby in the womb of the mother, you didn't have the brain that you have today, me neither. Our brain develop in different stage. And that first stage is where is amygdala, is the brain that is responsible for our survival, which is quite smart, right? You have to survive. And it's the first part as a kid, but also the first part as a human species. Maybe you remember, you've heard about this reptilian brain that was very on when we were having to fight for food, right? And then what are we doing? We go out and then we meet maybe big animals. And then we have this part of the brain, comes with three possibilities. We're assessing the other one and we check. Is it so big and dangerous that I have to run away, fly? Or maybe I can actually fight and kill and get, food for my family. Fight mode. Or what is the third one? You've heard of it? Yes, freeze. Because I don't know. Will it be dangerous or should I get food? So exactly. That's the freezing mode. And the problem is that when we frame situation like this, we are limited to this 3 dimension, which really make us obsess about the danger, having a fixed mindset because it's either me or the other one that I'm thinking should, win. And then I'm focusing on weaknesses. Oh, this animal is very big. I don't have so long teeth like he has, right? And then we try to avoid the worst. And while we do that, we are not focusing on the impact we want to create, instead, what we have that we can bring to the world, right? And how we can transform situation. So lucky, these 2 parts of our brain are there at the same time, all the time. So we need to practice to tap into this part to be able to create solution together. I'm going to give you an example of this. Have you seen the studio? Maybe some of you. So, why I'm talking about this part of the brain, right? Because once again, very often feedback is associated with that kind of feeling. And then is the part of our brain, survivor brain, right, who's afraid, who is going to win. So I couldn't show you, it would be too long, but I just screenshot some of the elements. And it's about Matt, who's the head of studio. You've seen the film of Ron Award, and with the whole team, they agree it seems to be like a wonderful, touching, beautiful movie. But there is the end, like 20 minutes last motor sequence that really drain everything. And then they agree that... No, they don't agree. Oops. Is it possible to have access to it? So basically, you will see the picture. But what happened? Thank you. They agree, and all of the team say to okay, you have to give the note, right? And then he gets stressed from that moment, and he goes to meet Ron Award, and then, of course, he doesn't manage to say one thing about that sequence. They just talk about, he just say, oh, that was great, which actually is not a feedback. And then they just say, oh yeah, it's so nice to have good feedback. And then we'll talk later about there is no sense about good or bad feedback. And then, they chase him, really forcing him to give that famous notes and feedback. And he said, no, I've really thought about it. I'm not going to give it. Why? He's so stressed. Because we discovered that some years ago, he dared to say something, to ask a question, and then Ron Award has humiliated him. So here there is no psychological safety at all. That's why he's freaking out. He's afraid to come with another idea or insights. And then at the end, there is a meeting, and he feels he still has to do it, because if not, theater want to buy, to distribute it. So he's pushed to do it. And then they start to fight. So he's saying it, and he becomes very defensive, and then it's like a mess. And at the end of the episode, he's calling him on the phone, and then he say, sorry. Ron say, he didn't say sorry. He say, I think I was so mad because I knew you were right. But he also say, if we meet again, I will kill you. Okay, so maybe you want to watch it. It will be better than me trying to tell you the story. But isn't it like a lot of energy wasted? An opportunity missed? Because it could be instead of being these 2 animals fighting against each other, an opportunity for the head of studio to be even more curious about what is the vision from Ron of his movie. Why this motel sequence? What kind of impact you want to create? Is it possible to create it in a different way? To bring different perspective and to build trust. And too often, that's what happens in feedback. That's why people are stressed. They are thinking like 2 people judging each other. I'm coaching a lot of people in the TV and cinema, and a lot of screenwriters. They tend to procrastinate to send the script to the producer. Why? Any clue? Because they are afraid. They are afraid of the feedback, and they are afraid that the person here, which is a producer, will say it's not good enough. and say, oh, I should not have worked with you. You're not worth like the money and time spent. So they are, of course, this reptilian brain trying to figure the worst scenario. And what helped them to stop procrastinate and to finish to write and to send the script is when suddenly I helped them to see maybe in a different perspective and to remember why are they sending a script to the producer, not to be judged at the tribunal, but just because they have agreed to create something together, right? That is this common background. And if they have a conversation here, it should be a curiosity about what is the input here. That's the way I'm saying it. Maybe we could do that and try that for this impact. So suddenly it's a very different shift and perspective. And always what is important when we're in that kind of conversation, to remember that you might be expert in a topic. You're never expert in the person. That means feedback should never seen as information. That's why it's failing also the note. Like, okay, I should give you a note. That is information. I mean, that's mean notes, information that the toilet are to the right? That's an information. Emergency here. But if you want to have a creative conversation, it's a dialogue, right? You're going to share an information and being curious how the person has received it. How does it land in their head? What are they going to make out of that? So to really have this kind of co-ownership of the conversation. And that's why I think the best things to do is to stop to talk about bad or negative feedback, because then we are still in the fixed mindset. It's like at one point it was this model of sandwich feedback. Have you heard of it? Okay, you should put like a like in a Big Mac, 2 nice things, and then you can put this difficult piece of feedback. I mean, who do you think people are? It's not so nice to go to a meeting thinking you're going to give that sandwich feedback. Because in her research that Carol Dweck made, right, about mindset, she found out that the way we give feedback can either nurture a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And when we say to someone that they are good or bad, it's actually nurturing the fixed mindset, and they cannot learn anything out of it, right? So it's more about the curiosity of what can be done different, what can we learn out of that, and to stop about thinking in terms of negative or positive, and think more in terms of perspective. And when I mentioned the CEO of Microsoft, that's what he's done when he moved to Microsoft and implementing that growth mindset. It was actually to name it perspective, no more the word feedback. It's become perspective tool, perspective conversation, to really broaden. Because, you know, I cannot see what is behind me. You can see it? You cannot see what is behind me? Okay. So if I ask you, will you tell me? Thank you. That's feedback, right? You help me to broaden my horizon. Because too often we are, maybe you've heard about this tale, with these blind people who've heard that there is an elephant that came to town, and then they want to touch it, but each of them just grab one piece. And it seems like a rope or a snake or, you know, depends where you touch the elephant. And thanks to feedback, you can actually get a bigger picture. Wow, and discovering there is an elephant that looks like this. So, I will share with you some of routines we can put in place, because I think we need to move away from one specific model. And I want you to reflect now about, I'm sure you have had some feedback that has helped you to be more creative. So before I bring more input, I would like you to reflect on that. And recall a time when you received feedback that helped you to reflect, to learn, to develop, to grow. It has happened to you before? Yes? How it made you think and feel and behave. And then you will turn again to your neighbor, and we will do the same. I will raise my hand when you will have to stop talking, and just try to share how this feedback has made you feel. Okay, and we can try maybe to focus on what was there. Is okay? You can turn to your neighbor, enjoy the conversation. Did you hear something interesting? Yeah? Something you want to share? Or you're still keeping it for you and then share it over coffee afterwards? That's fine. Just because we are limited by the time. If not, I would have really encouraged all of you to talk and share. So I think instead of, again, to try to fix one model of feedback and to see, oh, I have to do model. It's this model of feedback. We are Tuesday now. It's the day to do it. I think the shift can happen when we really integrate it as a creative dialogue, ongoing with ourselves and others, and making sure that we are on that step, right? And I want to share with you some of the rituals and practice that I think really works for individuals and teams to make that shift. Are you curious? Yeah? Okay, cool. So the first thing is actually to practice giving feedback to ourselves. It starts here. And how to do it on a regular basis, and I would say every day, is to do it consciously before and during a work session and after. And when I say work session, it can be like a meeting, it can be writing an application, writing a script, whatever that engage, your ability to perform something. And then it's very healthy and a good practice to nurture this creative leadership, to ask yourself, actually, why I'm doing that? What is the purpose of this application? What is the purpose of answering these 45 emails? What is the bigger picture there? What is motivating for me there? What kind of skills I can use? And again, based on the research from Gallup, if you're consciously activating a strength when you do something, it actually grows. That's cool. And then also you get more curious about, I can use this strength when I want to gain this impact. And then after, being curious about, okay, what did I learn? What was most inspiring for me? And how can I use this in the future? Would you like to try to have this conversation with yourself? Is it a yes? Okay, I want to hear it more because then we can commit. Is it a yes? Cool. And because if we're doing it, it's easier to engage that kind of conversation with others. And then, just to make sure here, that was a note, to make that happen, you need to be self-aware and active listening, which means listening to yourself, being curious instead of judging. And of course, looking forward almost for challenge and problem, because it's an opportunity to grow. And then for giving and receiving feedback for teams, I think what is key and often underestimated is to creating new conversation around it and to onboard team. The onboarding, very often there is a project or a movie or a TV series, and then you put a bunch of super talented people together. Would it be a great team? It can, but not automatically at all. You need to onboard people so they become a team. You need to make sure you have ongoing pulse check and also offboarding. So I would like to share some tips for the onboarding, and you can believe me or not, but I can just tell you that when I really encourage producer, filmmaker to onboard their teams before the shooting, it really has a great impact on their ability to solve problems on the way. So when it comes to onboarding, first to share the purpose of the vision of the film project or company and what should be the success criteria. And then not just sharing it, right? That will be an information, but having dialogue about it. Being curious about how does that land in the head of people. And ask people, okay, what motivates you? What motivates you in what I've said? Which part? And what kind of strength that you have, you look forward to bring, to contribute, to make this happen. And also to be very open about, of course it will be a challenge. Of course something will go not as planned. But what can we oversee already? Maybe there is some challenge that I know I might have personally or as a team. So you create a safe environment if you can talk about it ahead instead of being caught by surprise by it. And also to establish rules of the game. That's really key. What do we need to have in place together to be a team? And that's very important because you have been part of another team before, right? Let's say we're a team all together. We have to achieve something great. You have your own experience from before, right? Interesting or difficult. You might bring that. But now we need to play all together. So we need to establish our rules that will be exciting and motivating for all of us. So that's really key to have in mind. Maybe in the series The Beer you have seen, at one point the chef Carmi, they agree that if they yell, because that happened in the kitchen during a service, they will do that because they can't talk, just as a sign that, okay, I do that, that means I'm sorry. Let's talk about it later. It's an example of rules of the game. And ongoing pulse check, celebrating milestone, which is important, being curious about what has surprised us, sharing perspective, and also being curious of, what we could do differently next time, and for which impact. That is key. And the last thing is about not leaving a project or film without celebrating, proud moments, the learning, and also being curious about what we should we do differently next time. So maybe you start to talk to yourself now in a different way. I hope so. Hope you can bring something for yourself, for your colleagues, for your family, for your friends, for your kids about feedback. And if that's the case, to wrap up, I would like you to think about maybe one thing that you will start to implement. One thing. I'm not going to tell it right now, but you have one thing you would like to try? Maybe one thing that, you will keep doing that because that's quite aligned with what we've been discussing about creative leadership. Yeah? And maybe something that you will stop. And again, not because you're bad, not at all, but just because maybe what you're doing now doesn't have the expected impact. So then it's better just to leave it. So before we say goodbye for now, if you can just to your neighbor and share one thing that you will start to implement. Thank you very much for your contribution and sharing your input. And see you very soon.